pretty much want to make it so that people can travel again. And what do we mean by that? Long distance ground transportation. This is no less than 300 miles all around the mainland USA. This type of service that we would like to provide for people is for non-emergency circumstances, but we will want to provide medical aid for our clients, providing either a nurse or an EMT on the ride with them. So the source of revenue for this particular business will be directly from the service trips itself, which is averaging at about $6,000 per trip, and that's one way. The primary revenue drivers are going to be the growing elderly population because, you know, the boomers, they are getting older. And the holidays are also coming up. And with COVID going on, a lot of people would like to travel and not be so close to others for fear that they may, you know, be contract the virus or, you know, and things like that. So the holidays are coming up. That's one of our drivers. COVID is unfortunately one of our drivers in the population. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is an industry that I in particular have worked in. It's a very niche industry in the medical transport vertical, but I've worked with a guy and I saw him start with one truck and work his way up to 15 trucks providing this particular kind of service. Like I said, it's a niche service, but there is a growing elderly population in the United States. So the number of trips required, you know, that are going on every week will continue to grow for a little while. So we think it's a good opportunity where there's space for other businesses to get in.
Right, so the overall strategy for this business is to obviously first purchase vehicles. We would need to outfit the vehicles. These pictures that you see on the screen right now is what the vehicles will look like. We'll have room or space for 2 patients and additional family member if they would like, the nurse, and then 2 drivers up front. So this is how the trucks will be outfitted.
We're also, our marketing will mainly consist of digital advertising. So primary way to gain clients in this field is through Google Ads and Bing Ads and SEO. When people need this service, they go directly to the internet because it's not something that you're familiar with, and start to figure out how do I get grandma from point A to point B, or how do I move dad to the state? So there's a bunch of different terminology and way that people search that you would use. And so me in particular, I have a lot of experience, you know, driving leads to the website and generating these kind of trips. And I know the landscape very well when it comes to this. And so, you know, we just set up our website, set up a small call center in the beginning, and you know, we have to hire drivers and medical personnel, which hopefully we'll be able to draw on family resources, you know, in the beginning as we're trying to bootstrap this, or any of the other equity owners that want to come in and help us grow this thing. You know, there'll be opportunities to work there as we grow, and also, you know, doing driving, or if you're a medical professional, you can serve in that role. So there are multiple ways to kind of benefit on your own as we grow the business. Not only can you be a partner, but you can also, you know, help us by, you know, boots on the ground and helping us do the work.
All right, so a little bit about us. Me in particular, I have years of active military service, BA in Homeland Security.
Yeah, I've just been doing web development and internet marketing for about 10 years now. So, you know, that's the skill set I'm going to bring to this particular company, as well as a lot of insight into this particular industry.
All right, so going into this industry profile, I did a little bit of research, and what I found is that globally, the whole medical transportation market as a whole is rising, and the growth rate is 6.5% according to Globe Newswire. But when we talk about the United States, there's only about 9 companies in the whole United States that's doing the exact type of thing that we are trying to start. Other companies within those 9, they are either smaller vehicles with less privacy, or they're not offering the medical personnel option. The structure of the vehicles aren't really fit for patients, or we have some competitors who only provide short distances when it comes to medical transportation, so like less than 300 miles. And then you have companies that only provide third-party appointments, if that makes sense. So that means you call in somewhere and then they'll say, okay, we'll find a place to transport you or your loved one, and then they go to find someone else that actually provides the service. The last type of competition that we have are those that may have a very large fleet of vehicles. They may have very updated vehicles, and it may be more than what we can afford at the time, but what we have on them is that they're more costly. So the goal is to pretty much undercut those competitors. If you can see to the right, there's a little cutout that's showing those competitors when you do a Google search for long-term or long-distance medical transportation. And like Walter was saying earlier, he worked with a company that he provided great assistance for. And at the top of this list is that company, and that's ACC Medlink. Who is it that we're targeting? We're targeting people who, they may not even be elderly, but who just have a medical problem, but are medically stable and just requires some a little bit of attention while traveling. We also are targeting chronically ill patients who may need transportation to get to certain specialists to help with their health issue. Also, hospice patients looking for transportation outside to another state to go back home to, say, their family members who may have not seen them. A lot of times, retirees go out of state, and then if something happens, then they need to get back home to, you know, where people can help them. So,
yeah, a lot, especially here in Florida, we have a lot of retired people who at the end of life, you know, they want to go back to Minnesota or Boston or, you know, wherever they spent the majority of their life and be close to family. And so this is, Florida can serve as a pretty, you know, good home base because there are a lot of trips that originate out of here because of that reason.
And then the last 2, nursing home residents who want to just travel to see their long distance family members, and anyone who would like to travel by themselves or who don't want to fly or to take public transportation to avoid COVID may also want to get our service. The bottom line is it's for people who cannot or do not want to fly, who may need medical assistance, or who may or want to social distance themselves. So securing our clients and why it works. To secure the clients, like Walter was saying earlier, extensive marketing campaigning is what is going to work. It's been proven, and like he said, he took that one company from one vehicle to about 15 vehicles. So it can happen for us as well. As we will also want to utilize countrywide partnerships. People that are on this call, we have people in California, Illinois right now, and we have a lot of other people who would like to be involved, where we can potentially stage vehicles and assist in many ways, and also to help to speak with other entities around the country as far as getting to know different hospitals or retirement homes and things like that, and letting them know that we provide this service. A huge population of baby boomers, what they call it, are reaching an advanced age, and healthcare related industries are experiencing an excellent growth projected for the next decades. And then I just took a quote from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and pretty much it's just confirming everything that we're saying about the overall employment of healthcare occupations. But mainly at the bottom of this paragraph, it sums it up to how this projected growth is mainly due to an aging population leading to greater demand for healthcare services. So pretty much we're going to be there for when, and we're here, and we're going to be here for when, people need our service. All right, so now we're gonna, that was the last slide. Are there any questions right now before we move on?
Yes. Do you got to go to school for this or no?
No, not at all. I mean, this is something that.
So it's basically like the Red Cross, basically, right?
It's like I would describe it as an Uber for, medical transport, basically. We'll take you anywhere you need to go if you need to be transported with medical attention.
Long distance.
But non-emergency. So this is not an ambulance. You're not gonna call us 911 and get us. You call us when, like it said in the beginning, the patient will be pretty much stable, but unable to travel by any other method.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Sounds
I have
good.
a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So will you guys be networking to connect with hospitals and insurance companies? So if a patient, let's say somebody lives in South Carolina, but they need to come to the Mayo Clinic to be prepped to get like an organ or something like that, like will you guys have it set up to where the patient doesn't really have to pay, but you'll get payments through insurance companies and stuff like that?
From my experience, the primary method of payment is going to be cash pay or credit card directly from the patient or the family of the patient. And in a small number of circumstances, maybe 10 to 15% of those circumstances, you can have insurance that will pay for it. But usually insurance will only want to transport a patient to like the next closest most appropriate facility, or they have some terminology that they use to not pay for this service a lot of times for their customers. But there are other, besides just families calling up for this service, you have a lot of government agencies, jails that call up, they need this service. The military needs it from time to time. So there are, there are entities out there with, money to cut checks. You're not just looking at families. So you get a diversified customer base to fall back on.
Oh, okay. So it's like basically almost a contract. Sorry about that.
I had a couple
You're
questions.
you can get contracts, but really you're not depending on that as your main source of revenue. You want to meet people where they're at, and like I said, Google, search engines are a great way to kind of meet the clientele right where they are looking for your service.
Oh, okay.
I got a couple questions for you guys. This is Mel.
Hey, Mel.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Great. A few questions here. I like the idea. I think a lot of the research is right on the money in terms of baby boomers, people that need for medical transportation, things like that. So I kind of like the idea. A few questions. One, what kind of licensure is needed, if any kind of special license that you need or people need to do this kind of business, and what's the liability associated with that? Two, what are you talking about in terms of initial capital investment to make this to get it off the ground? And three, why have you chosen to go over 300 miles only instead of within 300 miles? What is your primary pricing structure? So that, how do you determine what you're going to charge somebody? So those are 3 or 4 questions I got right off the bat.
All right, so to carry people interstate, you would register with the FDOT, as an interstate motor carrier, and that is pretty much all you need to operate. And then you would get the appropriate insurance, and that would allow you to carry a person from state to state commercially. So this is basically, a long distance cab service. It's not an ambulance, so we don't need that kind of certification. And we don't have to deal with, with those type of regulations and headaches associated with being an ambulance. So again, this is non-emergency medical transport. And so why we chose to do over 300 miles, actually there is, if we don't make it to the end of this meeting, we'll just start it up and everybody join back in. But why we chose to do around 300 miles or greater is because less than that, people aren't willing to spend the money, because there is, a minimum price trip of about $3,500. $3,000 to $3,500 will be the minimum price trip. And so if somebody is going to carry somebody 100 miles and they want to pay that money, we will definitely do the trip, especially if it's from one state to another. If it's within the state, most likely we may turn away from that particular trip. But if it's crossing state lines, then we definitely consider it if they want to pay the premium price of $3,500.
So what's your profit margin on this? What's your profit margin on these trips then?
So if you do a trip, let's say a minimum trip is 300 miles and you charge $3,500, then you have to pay the drivers and the nurse. On a trip like that, we have one driver and one nurse. So that would be 2 personnel at about $500 a day total for both of them. So we would calculate that as a 2-day trip, because they'd have to drive to the place, pick up the patient, drive to the destination, and then drive back home. So we calculate that as a 2-day trip. So there'd be $1,000 in salaries. There would be about $200, $300 in gas, depending on how far the trip was, and maybe, another $100 to feed the patient and family while on the trip. So your profit margin is going to be somewhere around $2,000 to $1,500 on that particular trip. And then, you have to start subtracting your marketing costs, your insurance and car payment. But we've worked up some stuff on that we're going to go into now about, how we project growing our cash flow and growing, starting from, no trips and getting up to our goal, which is eventually to do 8 trips a week. And that's our goal in 2 years. So we can start to look at that now.
Is there a pricing structure like for 300 miles? It's $3,500, and then every 500 miles or every 100 miles beyond that, it's another $1,000. Is there something like a price structure?
It would be basically we would have some kind of algorithm where it would be a per mile algorithm. So depending on, let's say, if the trip was way out west, like on the West Coast, we just say it's $10 per mile. If it's all the way on the East Coast, we say maybe it's $7 per mile. And then, in between, we scale up. And then depending on how far the trip is, that's how we come up with the total. So let's say we had a trip from, you know, Houston to Chicago. We calculate that mileage, you know, I'm guessing it's maybe 900. And then we multiply that by, you know, $9. And that would be the price for the customer.
And lastly, what's your initial capitalization that you need to get off the ground?
You want to go in? We'll go into that right now. So we kind of put all the numbers out in the spreadsheet so you can kind of see what we think it will take to get off the ground.
All right, so if you haven't looked at this part already, here are our goals for the upcoming, for the next couple years, or the end of this year and the next year. Purchasing a vehicle, we'd like to do that by the end of this month, early next month, so that we can start outfitting the vehicle by August. Increase personnel coming from 0 to anything is going to be at 100%. And then pretty much by January, if we were to have all of our ducks in a row, instant revenue of $48,000. Getting into the end of the year, our fiscal year anyway, which is going to be November to November, we're looking at $252,000. All right. So here's what you were asking about. Pretty much like what we're looking at as far as pricing. He did give you the, you know, the algorithm and how it would be, but this is just to give you an idea of what we're looking at when it comes to prices and the amount. So we can say starting at this amount, but if, you know, we need to travel to get there, obviously it'll be more, depending on what the distance is.
Okay.
And then obviously we, you know, there's some other details about trips as well.
Yeah, you can, you know, they want to bring luggage along, or sometimes they want to tow something, and that's an upcharge. Obviously, you can upcharge for adding on a hitch and kind of towing stuff along of about $500 to $1,000 per trip. So, you know, the one thing about this service is that I know how to market it very well. I've done it for that company, and I've also helped out another company in that particular industry to grow their business. So I'm in the process of creating the website right now, which is our first step to you know, gaining clientele. Once we're about halfway through outfitting the vehicle, we're going to start running Google ads and Bing ads every day, so that we can you know, get our first customer. Obviously, it takes time to schedule stuff like this, so it's something that families plan about, I would say on average 2 to 3 weeks in advance. They plan this stuff, and sometimes further out and sometimes less, but that's a good average. We'll also be doing SEO to, you know, make our website rank higher on Google, and that's something that will take time, but you know, after a while, we'll start to see our ad spend on digital ads like Google and Bing go down, and we'll still be getting leads because we'll be ranking pretty high on Google to supplement that shift in advertising revenue. And then we'll, you know, also do a lot of social media marketing and, you know, whatever we can do to kind of put the word out there that we are a trusted resource for long distance medical transport.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
The vans, what is the maximum size for the patients that that van can handle? Like, I watched that 600-pound Life a lot, and they do a lot of, yeah, right. They travel, you know, those long distances just to see that doctor.
Yeah, we well, our maximum size would be sub 600. We probably get close to that. Anywhere between 500 and 600 would be the max that we would carry, just because of the stretcher that we plan on using actually has a max capacity at 500. So yeah, we wouldn't there. We'd have to tell that person to find another service because that particular I don't think it occurs quite enough to bill for that particular customer. Right. So yeah, I would count that one out. But anybody less than 500, we'll take them on, and if they're close, we'll encourage them to lose some weight and call us back.
No, we won't. All right.
Now you don't
everybody...
you don't have to get any special insurance. I mean, I'm a little concerned about the liability associated with the person you're transporting. What do you have to have some special insurance, not just regular insurance like you get for a car or truck? But
no, you have interstate motor carrier insurance, so that will allow you to carry passengers from state to state, and like it's not regular car insurance. Yes, you're right about that.
Yeah, how much does that cost?
I was estimated at about $1,000 per truck per month, but not per truck per month as you scale up. But the first truck is going to be $1,000, and then as you scale up and add trucks, your insurance goes up, but not $1,000 per truck. It's not linear.
So how much does it cost to buy the truck and outfit the truck? You're talking about $100,000 a truck or what?
No, not yeah. We're talking about around $50,000 to get the truck and outfit it.
Grab what you would like to see from this SWOT analysis. To summarize it, our strengths are going to be that we currently have $35,800 in startup funds, and our firsthand marketing experience and the experience with this market is going to also be a strength. Some of the weaknesses is obviously us being the underdogs and coming in with the barriers that are us not having as much as some of the top competitors and things like that. But some of our opportunities are going to be the holidays coming up, taking advantage of that, taking advantage of the current status health-wise in the country. And, threats, I don't see any, I'm not going to say any, but I don't see many threats. One that I think is most important is perhaps the economic crisis that we are seeing currently.
Well, I would like to speak to I think the economic crisis actually provides a silver lining for this particular kind of service because it makes it easy to find labor. When you have a great economy and everybody can kind of get a job locally, where they don't like these kind of driving jobs, but in a depressed economy, you'll be able to find great employees to drive your trucks, drive your vehicles, and as the economy gets better, they'll move on to find better jobs that will keep them home, but you'll still be able to find labor while you're going through that growing phase.
All right. And this little blurb right here is just summarizing what our goals are, where we want to be, what our strengths are, kind of just summarizing that SWOT analysis that we just went over, and where we want to be in the next year or two, which is to gain another additional vehicle, to have 2 vehicles by the 2nd year and 3 vehicles by the 3rd year. And therefore we'll be bringing in 3 times the revenue. This is just summarizing the day-to-day operations of the business, how it will work. And, you can take a look at that for a second. I'm not going to harp on it too much. I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, usually, this type of service, just speaking on how it gets paid for and the deposit structure, when people want to book this service, they will make a payment of, you know, at least 50% to secure their spot. And then the payment will be received in full before you actually start the trip. So there's never a situation of you waiting for payment. And in those situations, in instances where you're dealing with an insurance company, then you may have to wait for the check, but you are sending them documents like a promise to pay or some kind of promissory note that they sign and get back to you before, you know, you arrange the trip for them. So the money is secured before the trip even happens, which is a great aspect of this particular business.
So you basically get paid before you leave.
Yep.
That's good.
All right, so getting into the expenses, getting to the nitty gritty. Here listed are some of the expenses. Sorry. Are some of the expenses associated with the first year of startup. It includes the purchase of the first vehicle, outfitting it, getting the necessary supplies, and marketing, advertisement, insurance, and gas. So
now the vehicle number may change depending on which way we go with the securing our first vehicle. We have the option of financing a vehicle, you know, if possible, or if we can find the right vehicle, buying it outright. So that can affect these numbers somewhat. And also, you know, depending on the kind of stretcher we get, these numbers may fluctuate a little bit, but for the most part, they're pretty spot on.
So with the total being approximately $135,000, our investment goal is $200,000. All right, this looks really small. I'm gonna try to zoom in. Sorry. Huh?
Where's the long part about how they buy in?
That's the last one. All right, financial plan. This is just forecasting what we see the business doing in the next, this particular spreadsheet shows the first year, here's the second year, and then the third year. So we'll start here. And coming in with some of our own investment, and then using some business loans that we've received, will be coming in fairly strong, especially if we are able to get additional investments. Overall, with everything month to month, with the money coming in and the money coming out, the end balance for the year will be $95,000 for the first year.
And that's with a planned growth strategy from doing 2 trips a month to doing 1 trip a week. So basically 4 trips a month, or 52 trips a year. And so we go from, like I said, 2 trips a month to 4 to 5 trips a month in year 1. And that would bring us to having a closing balance of somewhere around $95,000 if, you know, all our projections hold. And this year is year 2. We plan on growing from 2 trips a week to 4 trips a week. And as you can see, obviously your revenue grows, and this thing the revenue scales linearly. As you get more trucks, you can do more trips. 1 truck can basically do about 3 trips a week maximum if it's out there on the road. So once you get to that point, you want to start adding new trucks. So as you scale up with trucks, obviously your expenses go up, but so does your revenue. And so at the end of that year, if we can scale to 4 trips a week with 2 trucks, we, you know, be somewhere around $500,000, close $479,000 closing balance. That's after paying all your drivers, employees. Like that's, you paid the bills. You maybe haven't paid yourself, you know, or you haven't included any taxes or office employees that we may have, but at the end of the year, that's what we would have over. And that's only doing 4 trips a week. So that's not a lot of trips necessarily, but as you can see, your revenue is starting to grow. And then in year 3, we plan on growing from 4 trips per week to 8 trips per week. And then, so as you can see, it scales linearly again, but your revenue at this point is, you know, every month you're bringing in over $100,000 in revenue. So, you know, that's a pretty good kind of, you know, I know you can feed a lot of people in your family if you have a business that's making $100,000 a month. And so that's kind of our closeout. We plan on at the end of year 3, having generated, you know, $1.5 million in revenue, doing 8 trips per week with 3 trucks by that time. And so if we can kind of continue to grow it from there, you can, you know, see where we'll end up. And hopefully, you know, I don't see this isn't even being ambitious to me. This is kind of a slow kind of grind, but I definitely think this is realistic, and, you know, I'm not shooting for the stars here.
I have a question. So you're going to be solely based out of Florida only?
Well, the way that you end up working it out is, yeah, you can base the company out of Florida, and, you know, we might do that for tax reasons or for whatever reason, you know, that Florida offers us benefits. And as we grow, you know, there may come a situation where we have to set up a base in another state because registering our vehicles there is, you know, more beneficial when it comes to insurance or something like that. So, you know, where we're registered and where we do business in the whole United States, there'll come times when, you know, we leave trucks all over the place, you know, in front of your house for the first 2 years, if you let us. But there's times when, you know, you leave a truck in Chicago, especially when you have multiple trucks, and you leave it there in the Midwest because, you know, you have a trip coming up in a couple of weeks, and you kind of, you know, you can maneuver the other 2 trucks for a while. And so you play a logistics game with the trucks, and because you serve the whole United States, you base the business out of where it is beneficial tax-wise, and, you know, whatever other reasons we can come up with at that point.
So somebody could request transport from North Carolina to Texas or something like that.
Oh yeah. We are a long distance medical transport company. We do state to state transports, non-emergency. So we're not, you know, flying somebody, you know, a burn victim to the, you know, emergency unit in some other place. But after that person is stable and, you know, they want to get home and they need somebody to just watch over them, that's the type of trip we can do.
I got a question for you. It just seems to me that if you're based out of Florida, you're based in one of the corners of the country. Why wouldn't you be based out of the Midwest somewhere where you can get to places a little bit more easily? Number one. And number two, it seems to me that you're chewing off a pretty big hunk of a business here, trying to go globally or going all across the United States in a startup. Why wouldn't you concentrate on, like, you know, 1 or 2 areas first?
Well, the way that this service kind of pans out is you may, at this point, have about 100 trips a week, and they range, you know, from people travel all over the United States, and it's just a situation thing where you can't really say, well, I'm just going to focus on, East Coast trips, because then you would miss out on a certain amount of trips. And it's just a statistics thing. You can't predict when that East Coast trip is going to come. It's just a random thing. So you may have some trips along the southern border, Florida to Texas. A lot of trips are Florida to Boston. You do get Texas to Chicago. But because Florida is a retirement state, we have a huge amount of the trips originate in Florida. And this is something that I've just seen it, you know, firsthand as that business was growing. I would say the majority of trips originate out of Florida more than any other state.
That's exactly where I'm going. I mean, I think that's the market when you're trying to serve, you know, especially when you're starting out, because you want as many trips as you can. Really, you don't want to go from having to go to Oregon and take somebody from Oregon to Nebraska.
That's why in the beginning when I was giving you the pricing algorithm, if we had to, you know, I would say, okay, that's a West Coast trip, and you know they're crossing 2 zones, they're going to pay a premium for that in the pricing structure. So if we can make it work,
that ties up one truck the whole week.
Well, yeah, that's something that we have to consider, and that's why we want to kind of scale and get 2 trucks. And then we can, you know, really get logistical in making decisions about how to maximize where our trucks is at. Because sometimes you actually leave trucks all over the country. They don't come back to base. You can fly the workers to the truck, and it becomes more economical to do it that way at a certain point. So when you get to about, you know, 3 to 5 trucks, you start working it differently. You don't talk about driving the truck out and bringing it all the way back home all the time. So it is something that you deal with as you're growing, and you have to make those decisions sometimes. But you know, if we can get that 1 trip per week, and it's a $7,000 to $8,000 trip, it's not going to lock up the truck for the whole week. First of all, it may take because we would try to schedule that trip maybe on a Monday, and then so we send the drivers out, you know, the weekend before. They get there on Monday. That trip would take a day and a half. Then they'd be back in the middle of the country, and maybe they could go to the next trip, you know, on Thursday. But again, those are the decisions that, you know, you do have to make, and you make smart ones to maximize your profit while you're growing this business. And you know, I do take your insight, and that question is a great one. And it's not a simple one, and it's not like we wouldn't maybe be able to take every West Coast trip until we had a certain amount of trucks, but we would want to at least hear out the customer, receive the lead.
Yeah.
I have just a little bit of information to give you guys. So I don't know if you were looking into brand new equipment or not, but there is a GSA.gov site and also another federal site. And what they do is they auction off those particular vehicles that you guys are looking to outfit and medical supplies, the stretchers and all. So if you're not looking for absolute brand new equipment, they have auctions every week for that equipment. Maybe you can get a lower price to be able to do some things a little bit faster.
Thank you. We appreciate that bit of info.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions? Or did I answer that question?
I got one more question. Do you got to travel out of state, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be in Tampa, Florida?
No, we can have a trip that starts in Tampa, but it would go somewhere out of state. That's our goal. Now, because we're based in Florida, if we had a really long trip in Florida, we may consider doing that, like, Miami to Jacksonville or something like that, and the person was willing to pay $3,500 or whatever price.
So you basically got to buy your own van to start this business, right?
Yeah, we need vans, and the van has to be outfitted in a certain way so that we can be able to provide this transport safely.
Oh, okay.
Have you thought about leasing a van versus buying them?
Well, we have thought about financing it, and that would end up being maybe $700 to $800 a month. But leasing we didn't consider because I'm not sure if we can configure the van the way that we need to if we lease it.
Okay. How much initial capital are you guys putting into the business?
We have about 35,000 set aside right now to start this particular industry. And then obviously, you know, if I had to bootstrap it, I'd use my credit cards and stuff like that. We probably got another 35,000 on that we could use, but we honestly don't want to, like, you know, bootstrap it. We kind of want to get started and have a little cushion, maybe for things that we couldn't predict. So I feel like, you know, we have enough to bootstrap it right now by ourselves, but we really didn't want to
Exhaust all week.
go that route and be doing that, you know, everything by the thinnest margin. So we were looking to offer, as you can see here, we have two options for people to invest. And the first one would be that you purchase shares and you would be, you know, an equity owner in the business. And so we've decided, we've evaluated the business at $1 million business. And so we're offering 20% of that for people to invest in. And we're selling shares, 400 shares at $500 each. And you would basically participate in profit sharing, and just depending on what percentage of, you know, you invested in. We would, you know, structure it. This is, you know, theoretical at this moment. It may change, but we're pretty sure that we would try to withhold payments for the first 2 years just to make sure we can grow the business appropriately. And then option 2 is that you can loan us the money, and we will return it at a higher interest rate than, you know, your savings account right now, which is probably 0.001 or whatever you get out your savings account. And, you know, hopefully we can beat the market too. But we, you know, we're talking about a 10% interest rate, and the loans can be, it would be locked in for a year or 2, depending on what you choose. And interest will accrue during that lockdown period, of course. And then also at buy-in, you can select the terms of the loan. So 3 to 7 years, how you want to get paid back. And then we would go that route. So,
And the interest will reflect.
well,
But you could team up, right? You could basically team up together and then just
I would prefer that, you know, people come in and want to be, you know, an owner and take an equity stake in this, and you know, it would be your business too at that point, and you know, you could treat it as such. So those are kind of the options that we're presenting. If you have a third option that you'd like to present to us, we'd be more than willing to hear that out. And kind of, you know, that's it. That's the last slide in the deck, I think.
Could you send these slides to us so we can take a look at them?
Yes, sir.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Yeah, when you have a chance, Walter, send it to me too.
All right. And so, you know, your initial investment, you know, can be anything as small as $1. If you want to invest in us, if you believe in us as people, this is a business. Like I said, I've helped grow one from 1 Ford van to 15 Mercedes Sprinters. And I saw it happen right before my eyes. And a big part of it was the work that I put into it. And so I feel like, you know, I can recreate that under the right circumstances.
What time frame was that, Wabi?
So it was about 5 years that it took him to grow from 1 to 15. And during that time, he also moved his operations from a small office, then he moved to a medium office, and then he purchased a building with lifts in it, and he hired an in-house mechanic to reduce costs on, you know, sending it to Mercedes. And so I kind of saw, you know, where he figured out how to cut corners, where he figured out how to scale up, and I saw a lot of his logistical decision making about trips. So I was there kind of, and he was the guy I worked for was the first one to have these Mercedes Sprinters. Other people in the business had like minivans. Some people had these big mobile homes, and so he cut out a real niche, and he is, you know, he's taking off. He's the #1 guy right now, but I don't think it would be hard to get in and cut out a space for ourselves.
So, real quick, I looked at the numbers that you guys presented. Obviously, you know, there's going to be a certain point at which you guys have to take salary. I didn't necessarily see that reflected in the numbers.
Well, I did mention that, you know, that was without paying ourselves or including any salary for any employees that we have. Now, my thought is that for the first couple of years, I'm going to keep doing what I do, you know, in the daytime. This is kind of something whoever's going to participate is going to grow in their part-time. And then, you know, by year 3, we will be able to, you know, somebody's going to be able to quit their job and go work there full-time if those numbers hold true. And, you know, we're making $100,000 a month. I mean, that's going to pay, you know, a few people's salaries. And then, you know, obviously there's going to be profit sharing and those kind of things. But again, I didn't discuss salaries because it was my thought, again, that I'm going to mainly be doing this to grow the business, and I'm going to keep my day job for a while.
So, is it possible with a startup company not to have somebody dedicated full-time to just marketing this stuff?
Well, I will be dedicated full-time to marketing it. That is something that I plan on doing. But, you know, again, I did it for 5 to 7 years, day in, day out. So I kind of know how to do that part of it. The part of the business that, you know, we're going to need help is people answering the phones, people selling the trips, or, you know, being able to, basically you have to be a salesman.
Right.
Which is not my forte, but at the end of the day, my forte is making the phone ring. And then, you know, hopefully we'll have within the team, or I'll be able to, you know, become strong enough at selling the trips, which is why we plan on a slow start, which is only 2 trips a month. While we, you know, learn how to talk to the customers and, you know, just get better at it. But again, some people are coming into this type of business, they just want the lowest price. Some people want the best service. So, you know, we're going to find our niche and get in and kind of, you know, we'll be able to get trips in the beginning as we're growing. That 2 trips a month, I feel like, you know, you'll get that just because. And kind of growing it into those next stages will be us getting better at what we do and finding, you know, better people for the team. If we have to find somebody that's dedicated on the phone, a dedicated salesperson, and they get paid, you know, by the trip that they sell, or how, you know, however we work it out. I think there will be growing pains, which is kind of another reason why we don't want to bootstrap this thing, you know, with the thinnest margin of error. We kind of, you know, we want to have a little room for error because it is a learning process that we will be going into somewhat, not totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a market here, and well, to, you know, we've had this conversation before. I guess, you know, like one of the things, first and foremost, you guys mentioned that the objective was to be cheaper than competitors.
Sometimes.
All right. Well, all right. So can I just finish my thought, and then I'll let y'all kind of answer it. You know, but then the second thing that came was talking about like service, quality of service, and all of that type of stuff. Typically, those types of things are trade-offs. So I guess my question would be, first and foremost, why is your service cheaper, or why could it be cheaper? And secondly, how can you deliver a higher
well, in the
quality of
beginning,
service?
you know, I would tell somebody, you know, we can afford to be cheaper because we don't carry a lot of the overhead that some of our competitors carry. We're a smaller family-owned operation, and you know, we can afford to do that. And just as we scale up, you know, it is one of the things that we will be doing a lot is checking out what our competitors are doing. So you do a lot of calling them guys up and just running fake trips. Hey, I need a trip from here to there, and just seeing how much they're pricing their stuff out as. And you keep tabs on that stuff so that, you know, you can price your stuff competitively against them. Because generally, when people are searching for a service like this, they're going to hit a couple of spots. It's not, you know, a $500 transaction. This is going to be thousands of dollars, usually upwards of $5,000. So people are going to do their due diligence, and they're going to hit a couple of places and get a couple of estimates, and then they're going to weigh, you know, the pros and the cons. They're going, oh, this guy, this looks like the most expensive. This is like luxury premium service, but, you know, we can't afford that. This guy over here is $500 less. They got the same truck. They got, you know, same things, but whatever. So you have people making those decisions when they look for the service, and we're going to be doing our due diligence to make sure that we're pricing competitively. But you also have those type of customers, again, where they're looking for a premium, you know. And I think in the beginning, you know, that would be a good strategy, just to make sure that we are getting trips and that, you know, you are paying the bills. Now, as we start to scale up in trips, then, you know, we may not be so generous. But in the beginning, again, we're going to be doing our corporate espionage. We're going to be determining what our competitors may charge for a trip. And so we're going to know how to price our trips accordingly.
Can you tell me from your experience, where's the sweet spot in the marketplace? Is it nursing homes, hospitals, private citizens? Where does
Yeah, you get a lot of nursing home to nursing home transfers. Like I said, especially out of Florida, you have people that retired here, and, you know, they're on their last leg, and their family wants to bring them back to Minnesota so they can smell that Minnesota air again. And they want to put them in a nursing home up there. So that is the majority of trips. But you get all, you know, you get home to home, you get people that want to go see relatives, you get jails that want to transport people, you know, hospitals. I mean, it runs the gamut of who your customer base could be, but the majority of transports is nursing home and nursing home.
Yeah, I mean, and see, that's the reason why my thought, you know, obviously you got more experience than I do in this area here, but I've done a lot of marketing myself. But it seems to me that that's the reason why you want to concentrate in Florida when you first start up, because you know the market there, and that's where most of the people are. Why you rob the bank? Because that's where the money is you know, saturate the market down there, especially when you have no full-time people on this thing. So you know, somebody's got to answer the phone. They got to do the marketing. They got to, you know, do all the rest of the things you need to do. So it seems to me that if you want to kind of like concentrate your marketing and concentrate your service area from Florida to somewhere else, as opposed to having to go somewhere and pick up somebody and then come back. So it seems to me, you know.
Well, the thing is, you do want to, you know, we'll focus on Florida, and we may, you know, in the beginning start in just the southeast region of the United States, and kind of expand outward as we grow.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. Florida seems like it's a prime market from there out.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I think, you know, you may be right about that, where we kind of start from Florida and maybe expand out of the southeast.
You can't boil the ocean to start off with, you know what I mean?
But you still also have to worry about coming back in general.
Right.
Yeah. So say you go from
that's
Florida
one thing
to
too.
Nebraska.
Sometimes, you know,
Right.
Just because you're starting out of Florida, whether you start in Florida or end in Florida, it's the same round trip. Because either you're picking the patient up in Florida, taking them somewhere, and then driving back empty, or you're driving somewhere to pick them up and then drop them off and then driving back home. So it's not too much of a difference, but it is something to consider, you know, while we're in baby phase and starting to grow.
Yeah, because you only want one deadhead.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. But, you know, as we grow, hopefully we'll be able to, you know, when you get 2 trips a week, you know, you can kind of arrange them so that, you know, they string in a row and you don't end up with so many dead legs, or, you know, people just going out and coming back home and then going out and coming back home. You start to be able to string the trips together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something, you know, that will happen when we grow, and, you know, if we can kind of plan and get our logistics right, we'll be able to maximize our profit by making sure we make those right decisions.
Right.
Yep. So we have 4 minutes left here. I guess we'll wrap up now. Do you guys have any more questions? Let's get them in.
We can start another one if you like, or.
I do have a question. Let's say you have a patient and you are taking them to see family members, and this particular patient, it doesn't, and you're also returning them back to wherever you picked them up from, whatever nursing home you picked them up from. So let's say they're going from Florida to Tennessee, but when they go see their family, they would like to stay there for 5 or 6 days. Does your driver stay there for 5 or 6 days?
If they want to pay for that, no, our driver is going to go off and do another trip and then come back in 5 or 6 days and bring them back to wherever they want to go.
Okay. All right.
So our goal is to have every truck doing 2 to 3 trips a week in the long run. So as we scale up, you know, we get 1 truck, we can kind of max out at 3 trips a week. But when we get 2 trucks, we can, you know, do 6 trips a week if possible. And when we get to 3 trucks, we'll be able to do 9 trips a week. So, you know, we'll be growing. And when we're doing, you know, if you're doing 8 to 9 trips a week, again, that's good revenue, man. That's a lot of positive revenue. So that's the plan, you guys. And again, any more questions?
I just want to tell y'all did a good job on y'all presentation.
Oh, thank you very much. And you know, we'll send this out to everybody so they can kind of go through it themselves. And
I also want to mention, while we have a little over 2 minutes left, we've given the 2 investor options, but if there's anyone who would like to seek employment or help out with lending your property for a pit stop for a vehicle or anything like that, in the event that you know, are not able to make any type of monetary investment at the time, please still reach out and let us know. We're open to everything, all the help that we can get in starting up this business. We're not turning away any help. So we want to utilize all resources, all people, and grow our network everywhere. So thanks everyone for your attention, and yeah,
we'll be sending you the presentation in your email or something.
Once again, great job, guys.